In terms of a deal that I would say seminal, at the point I became a member of Dern Mason, Swerdlow and Floam, was two young men came to see me. It was really quite interesting because I think if one of them had not been Canadian, and the other Latin American, or he was really Cuban, but Latino, they probably would have never hired me because they would have known better. And they had gotten the story of this teacher in South Central LA, or East LA, Jaime Escalante. And Jaime was very well known for having introduced this rigorous math program into his high school, and a controversy that came about because as his students did well on standardized tests, it was believed that they weren't really doing this high level of math work. And that really became the movie Stand and Deliver. But it started as an American Playhouse project. At that time, American Playhouse Television actually allowed filmmakers to bring projects to them, and then you could carve out a theatrical window that preceded the television window. But American Playhouse paid for it. So I made the American Playhouse deal. I got the theatrical window. We made the movie, and then we sold it to Warner Brothers for its theatrical distribution. And so that was a very intricate deal, because first I had to make the American Playhouse deal.
Right.
I had to carve out the window and all the stuff that goes with it and make essentially a low-budget feature film, but it wouldn't have happened but for television. And so many filmmakers, people who we identify as filmmakers and projects that we identify as seminal films, really came out of that American Playhouse model.
What are some of the most important factors to you to secure for a client any kind of a deal, a creative deal like that?
Well, in that case, one of the things that I was really very proud of in that deal, which some 15 years later became more of a standard, is that I was able to obtain a favorable definition such that a number of revenue streams were counted for purposes of break even, which allowed my clients to reach a point of, I'll just use the term profitability, much earlier than they would have if things had been. And it was really the point when videos were just happening. And at that point, videos were only accounted for on a royalty basis. Now this is almost a standard thing. Everything was royalties. The royalties were very small, and they were only on a piece of the compensation. And I went to Warner Brothers and convinced them, which they said they would never do again, and they didn't do again for many years, that they should count all of the revenue towards break even for purposes of putting our clients into profits, and then they could count it at the regular rate. And now that's a very standard deal, but I know I made one of those first deals.
In other words, they would get an upfront from that direct
No,
profit?
they would actually, what would happen is, when you think about how one calculates profits in a deal, it's money's in, money's out, right? What do you count as money's in? What do you offset against money's in as money's out? And it's the difference. To the extent that money's in exceed money's out, that's the profit.
Right.
So the issue is, if you're on the studio side, you want as few things as possible to be in the money in column and as many things as possible to be in the money out column. And if you're sitting on my side of the deal, you want as many things as possible in the money in column and as few things as possible in the money out column.
Right.
And that was really it.
And that's the line to negotiate.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you set a standard that they were like, shoot, we shouldn't have done.
We shouldn't have done that.